It's interesting. So cool. This is so cool. No thanks. Hello. I thought I'd bring back my favorite song. All right, let's see. All right. How's everyone doing? Hi, how's everyone doing? I hope everyone is doing really good. I'm trying something different today, and I decided to use a different streaming platform. So you'll experience, I guess, the experience along with me. So thank you definitely for being here. This is Udgoon. I'm really glad that you guys are here. I'm really glad that you're sharing your time with me. It is 3 p.m. Eastern time zone. It could be different times where you are. Nonetheless, I really appreciate that you're here, and I really appreciate your presence. So thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Hi, Naima. How are you? How are you doing? Thank you, bye, for being here. Thank you very much. So today, a lot of things have happened over the week, right? So a lot of things have happened, and there's so many things going on in the world right now that's given us, I guess, much for discussion. So really glad that, we can share this time together, and that you're here with me with these on the weekly show. Every time I have a confession to make, right? So I'll just be super honest with you guys. Every show, before we actually get started, I am like so nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. I feel like throwing up. That's how nervous I get. Can you imagine that? I have done this. I've done this for like so long. Hold on, guys. I've got to go and block some people. What is this? Okay, so somebody said something really rude, so I had to block them. Okay, so sorry about that for a moment. But anyways, yes, oh my gosh, I have to be honest. I get so nervous, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if they'll like what I have to say. I don't even know if they're interested in talking about this. But anyways, these are the topics that are, that I'm passionate about, that I like to talk about, that I often think about. And, the weekly show is really, as much as it is for the viewers, it's also so much for me. It's such such a learning experience for me because I'm doing a lot of research and I'm doing a lot of reading, and it feeds, my desire to learn all the time. I consider myself a lifelong learner, and it just really, it just really feeds that desire of mine to learn more, to stay abreast of what is going on in the world, this world that we all live in. I'm like, what is going on? What happened this week, like in, let's say, US politics? What happened this week in parenting? How are parents dealing with the coronavirus and limiting screen time? Can you really limit screen time when you're stuck indoors? Oh my gosh, I'm losing that battle every single day. And mind you, it is a battle every single day. But anyways, so some of the things that I thought about this week, right? So I read this really good article recently about a record number of Black women in the United States running for Congress. And it led me to think about the kind of barriers that women face in when they enter politics, and even attempting to enter politics, right? Such a challenge for women, in particularly in the United States even, right? The US is one of many countries actually in the world which has never had a female head of state. Now, our girl Hillary Clinton came pretty close, but nonetheless, she did not prevail. All right. And that is on part of the societal views on women leadership. Currently, there are about like 20 heads of state worldwide that are female. Women have attained the highest office in countries such as Liberia, which is in Africa, by the way, India, Dominica, Argentina, Bangladesh, Trinidad, and Tobago, countries that the US may even look down upon in terms of progress, but they have had female head of states, where we in the United States have not had female head of states. And furthermore, my country of origin, Somalia, also struggles a lot with women, putting women in leadership positions, right? So there's this resistance to putting women or in allowing women to be in leadership positions, right? One of the main barriers that women face when attempting to enter politics and leadership positions is just patriarchy, plain old sexism. Right? So in patriarchy, a male-dominant society basically has convinced us that women are not good leaders and that women are not qualified or competent to be leaders, right? And that female leadership is a disruption to the way things are, to the status quo. People get really, really attached. People get really attached to the idea of how things are supposed to be. This is not how things are supposed to be. This is not the way we do things. This is not our culture. This is not our tradition. So people get so fixated and attached to the way that things are that they're unable to they're unable to allow any necessary social change. It prevents necessary social change. And that has always been the mountain, the obstacle that any change in society has had to face. This is not who we are. This is not our culture. This is not our tradition, right? So women leadership is also undermined by just not having a lot of women at the seat of the decision-making table. And because there aren't a lot of women at the table, this also enables basically that women leadership is undermined and discounted, right? Because if you are only one of few at the table and everyone else is different from you, you might feel like a fish out of water. And the message is, you don't really belong here. Look around you. There aren't many women here. Therefore, women must not be good leaders. Women must not belong in leadership positions. And that is a challenge, a problem also that we have to overcome. Okay? So in your experience as a person, living in this world, right? In your experience and what you have seen so far in the societies that you live in, what are the ways that women have been excluded from politics? What are the ways that women have been barred from politics and denied their rightful seat at the table? Decision making that impacts a lot of us. All right, so I got a wonderful comment here. Let me see your comments. Okay, so women are waiting to be invited to the table, which I don't think is realistic. We should come forward and invite ourselves. Wow, I could not have said that any more beautifully, Naima, because a lot of times, yes, we are waiting to be invited in, right? But the decisions that are made in the society, all of these issues are women issues. Healthcare is a women issue. Economics is a women issue, right? Climate change is a women issue. Everything in the world that impacts all people in the world are women issues as well. So we should not wait to be invited to the decision-making table. We should just bring our own chairs. There's actually a really important woman, Black woman, who was the first woman in America, actually, to run for president, Shirley Chisholm. And she said, if they don't give you a seat at the table, if there's no seat at the table for you, bring a folding chair. Just bring your own chair and sit there at the table, right? So imagine that, right? Imagine that. So, and I really love Sister Zainab's comment, but meanwhile, men be wrecking the world. Oh, ain't that true, right? So all of these ideas that women don't belong at the decision-making table and that women are not good leaders, we have real good examples of, men who are not making good decisions, right? And one example actually is the way right now the world is handling the coronavirus pandemic, right? So many women in the world, or so many women leaders in the world, have handled the coronavirus pandemic much better and much more efficiently than their male counterparts. Right? And that's not to say that women are inherently better leaders, right? But the fact of the matter is that in a society where multiple, obviously, people live in, you need more input. You need input from a variety of different backgrounds, right? There is evidence that the more diverse, let's say, an organization is, the better that they perform. And that's because they get more input from multiple walks of life and experiences that make things better. All of the successful against coronavirus countries are led by women. Don't just take my word for it, guys. It is true. You can look it up. It is absolutely true. It is absolutely true. So, what are other things? Naima mentioned that we are waiting to be invited, right? What are some other ways then that women have been excluded from politics? What are some other ways that women have been excluded from politics? So women have been excluded from politics in which ways? All right. Zainab says we need the feminine and masculine qualities within both men and women to have equilibrium in society. Wow. I mean, that in itself is just quite powerful. You definitely need both or all parties in a society, right? Not just men and women, but like all parties in a society to contribute to the society that they live in. Okay. Another thing in terms of sexism that women face is a lot of times there's like biased media reporting, right? Even in the United States, which touts itself to be a progressive country in terms of, progressive values, right, in the world, there's this biased media reporting on women politicians. A lot of times, rather than the focus being the politics and the issues that the women represent, there's so much focus on their looks or what they're wearing. Does anyone remember the obsession with Hillary Clinton's pantsuits? That is sexism, right? So plain old sexism that continuously undermines women's place and position in the society. Another thing that I mentioned earlier was that women are not represented adequately in the society. And what that does is make women feel that they don't belong. And not only make women feel that we don't belong, but also make the greater society feel that women don't belong in leadership positions. But it also enables like women to be abused in these environments where we are limited in number. Anyone remember earlier this week when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, U.S. Congressman from New York, was abused by a male politician who called her out of her name. And yeah, said some bad words towards her. And instead of apologizing, he used his daughters and his mother and his wife, women that are in his life as an excuse. And we hear that a lot, right? We hear that a lot, that women are often only valued to their relation to men, right? To being mothers and wives and sisters and daughters, and not separately as human beings in their own right, right? So this man abuses a woman, his colleague, a female politician, just his colleague, abuses her. And instead of saying like, I am sorry for what I said, that was wrong. And, to be honest, that was sexist on my part. He says, well, I'm very passionate about the issues and I got a little carried away, but I have the utmost respect for women because, as a father of daughters, really, as a father of daughters, that really didn't prevent you from being so abusive towards women, right? So, okay, let me just see. We have some awesome comments. I'm really glad everybody that's here. Naima Muhammad, thank you so much, Abai, for your contribution. I love it. Women not believing themselves and not supporting each other. Oh my goodness. We can talk about this one forever, right? The way that women do not support each other sometimes is because, not sometimes, a lot of times is because of the societies that we live in that make us compete, right? They make us compete for what is supposedly scarce resources. And the only reason that they're scarce is that the only limited amount is allowed for women, right? So they make us compete for these scarce resources. And that's why a lot of times, whether you're a woman or whether you're an ethnic or religious minority, we're in this competition with one another because of the way that the society is like it's stacked against us, right? The playing field is not level. So instead of addressing the inequalities and the issues at hand, what happens is that women and other people who are marginalized in society are against each other and compete against each other for limited resources or limited opportunities or limited positions in a particular industry where we will have a multitude of men represented, right? Where we will have, let's say, in a society that we live in and abroad in the United States, which is more white centered, right? Where there will be a multitude of white people represented, multitude of men represented, but the women and the other people of color are pitted against each other for a particular position. Right? But if there's room for all these white people to be represented, and if there's room for all of these multitude of men, then there's room for you and I. All right, so Sainer says, we brainwash them to accept the notion that only women or only men can lead. How many times have we seen that, right? And a lot of times, like, culture is used to support that. Okay, a lot of times culture, just the way things are, is used to support that only men can lead. All right, so Lily Barkat, thank you very much for your contribution. Empowering women so they can get seats in politics and economics. I'm so glad that you said empowering women, right? So like, what are the ways then that we can empower women so that they can get seats in politics and have economic freedom? One of the things that's huge for women's liberation is that women have financial independence. Financial independence is liberation for women. A lot of times women, get put in these subordinate positions because of a lack of educational and economic opportunities. So I'm really glad that you said something there that's empowering women so that women can get seats in politics and economics, and listening to women about the issues that they are representing, that they're advocating for, rather than looking at them through these filtered, based on patriarchy and sexism, through this filtered lens of what a woman can or cannot do. All right. Naima, unequal opportunities, lack of education, cultural issues with regards to women are viewed in the societies that we are living in. And that one can go on forever, right? We can talk about that one forever too, right? So unequal opportunities. One of the things that's really sad, right? When there is like economic hardships in families, what happens is that the girls are kept at home from education and the boys' education is still supported. Right? So unequal opportunities, lack of education, so the barrier of education and quality education, cultural issues with regards to the way women are viewed in the society that we are living in. Absolutely. So cultural ways that women are viewed are that women are not leaders, right? Something that says women, and then on the other side, leader, and it's kind of like a unequal sign, right? So the equal sign with a line through it, unequal. And that is a perception that is generally held in society that basically needs to be dismantled. All right, so Zainab, back home, even if women come forward to lead, they don't get the endorsement that they need. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how back home, women are not supported to lead. And basically, yeah? So can a woman lead people? It's like a huge question mark, right? And time and again, women have proven that, considering all things, that they are just as capable, right? And a lot of the other things are just societal conditioning, right? So a lot of the other things are just societal conditioning rather than inherent ability as a woman or inherent ability as a man, right? So there isn't that inherent ability based on your sex. It's more or less about who you as an individual, right, are, and what you as an individual can do or cannot do. But given the opportunity, women are just as capable as men to be leaders. Let's talk about how sexism creates a very hostile and oppressive environment, right? So there's women that prevail, and now they're at the table, right? So now they're at the table and they are leading, and then sexism creates a very hostile environment for them in their respective position, so much that they're just pushed out. They're just pushed out of their position. How many women have stepped away from leadership positions because they're like, this is too much. I am going through HELL and back every single day, and I am tired. And you know what? My mental health and emotional well-being is more important than this job. I just can't be the martyr. I can't be the sacrificial lamb. And just women just step away from the position and just say, you know what? I just can't. Right? So once even women prevail and get in these leadership positions, sometimes they don't stay in these leadership positions because of the sexism and the hostility because of the sexism in that society, right? Be in that position. So like every time you're receiving pushback, and you're receiving microaggressions, and you're receiving, you're receiving just like slight remarks about your ability as a woman, or slight remarks about your sex, about your being a woman, and it just cuts you down, right? And sometimes it even gets so dangerous. I recently read like Ilhan Umar's memoir, guys. I highly recommend it. I actually wrote a review about it. So I wrote a review for South African magazine, Mail and Guardian, and I read the book. And as Ilhan Umar, she's very, accomplished, and I admire her immensely. So I read about the time that she literally got beat up because people were so against her running, and people were so against the audacity that she had, as a woman to go against a Somali man, right? That was the thing. So, and that this happened here in Minnesota, in the United States, right, where we have had, women in like leadership positions. All right, so let's see. Zainab, thank you so much, Zainab, for your contributions. I really, really appreciate you so much. Zainab Habon is my sister in, this war. She's my sister in this battle for equality, for Black Lives Matter, for women's rights, for empowerment, of human beings, right? So Zainab Habon, thank you so much, love. I really love you. So for real, respect us for the human beings we are. And this is in regards to the comment about men using their relationship to women to defend themselves against accusations or allegations of sexism, right? And they'll say something along the lines of, or I have a wife, I have daughters, usually even the wives aren't even used as an excuse, whatever, right? But typically what they'll do is they'll use their mother and their daughters, right? So their mothers and their daughters. But if you only respect women that you have a certain relation to, then you don't really respect women, do you? No, you don't, right? So it's just generally across the board. Across the board, do you or do you not respect women? Do not try to use your mothers and your daughters as excuses, right? And again, this implies that women are only valuable in their relation to men, or women are only valuable in what they can do for men and not simply as human beings in their own right. So I always, I resent this notion of when I saw a meme on Facebook, on other platforms as well, saying she is somebody's daughter, mother, sister, blah, blah. Erase all of that, right? She is somebody, point blank, period. That's it. All right. She is somebody. Again, in other parts of the world, due to economic hardships and gendered expectations, many girls and women are barred from educational opportunities, which then makes it even more difficult to access any leadership position, right? So, and which makes it more possible for women to experience gendered violence and poverty. And then many women face a compounded exclusion due to race, gender, and economic status. So there's many things that women face in terms of being barred from politics or any other leadership opportunities. And it's not just compounded, and it is compounded by race, gender, and economic position. And that is a fundamental problem with patriarchy, is that this is a man's world. And women are there just to serve men. No. N-O. No. Right? And there's many things that women have to do in terms of fighting that, right? Many things that women have to, and it gets tiring, right? But the battle or this effort it's worthwhile, it is definitely worthwhile. And I salute every woman doing her part, every woman. Speaking of bad leaders, men, no, not all men are bad leaders, okay? But one particular one, Trump dangled on Twitter that he may not accept the election results due to the issues that the United States Postal Services is having during the coronavirus pandemic, issues that he is exasperating due to his lack of support, right? So this has people talking and worrying. Can he do that? Can the current president of the United States say that I'm not going to accept the election results? Right? Many people have chimed in online and insinuated that he has gone full dictator. Is that really surprising? And he has a long record too of saying horrible things about women. And despite all of that, many allegations made against him of misconduct and things that he has verbally said that we all have heard on, on video and everywhere. He has still gone to be elected as the president of the United States. So that also speaks to the way that women are disvalued, and that even what is touted to be a very progressive country and a beacon for freedom. I do love the United States, but because I love it, I reserve my right to criticize it and to be invested in it being better than it is today, okay? And there's more to be said about my stance on this, and also the ways that immigrants are put in this kind of like between a rock and a hard place of like being happy that they're in, have gotten a second lease on life, and being in a country where they have opportunities, and also not being fully satisfied with the way that country is, right? But a lot of times immigrants are just said to be, hey, you should be happy to be here, and STFU, right? No, I'm not. I'm invested in this country now. 20 odd years later, this is my country and I'm very invested. All right. So with that being said, is the president of the United States has said, maybe we should postpone the election. But the election can't be postponed. And nevertheless, this doesn't seem like something he can do. He cannot do this. And whether an election happens or not, his term ends on January 20th, 2021. And, I am not ashamed to say I will be very glad when he leaves office. Yes, he said, should we postpone the election? Should we, with everything that's going on and, the coronavirus that he's actually been denying for the longest, he's using that now as an excuse to delay the election. And my aunt and I actually were talking last night about once people get in power, especially in terms of presidents, right? Especially presidents. And we're talking about African presidents. And then we got to talking about Mr. Trump as well. She said, once they're in power, they never seem to want to leave. And I said, yes. What is it with men and is it men? Well, so far we've seen only men, African dictators and other presidents in the world doing this, holding on to power. Maybe there's some women too, okay? I stand corrected. Somebody can leave me some in the comments. Women who have refused to leave power. But right now, the evidence points to a lot of men doing this. A lot of male leaders doing this. Nevertheless, she said, what is it with them? Why do they want to stay in power forever? And I said, there's something about the love for power that is, that corrupts people or exasperates, their corruption already. But anyways, if an election happens or not, his term ends on January 20th, 2021. And hopefully, he's going to be voted out, because November 3rd, 2021 is election day, guys. And there are many other elections too, local elections that people should also participate in. Presidential election, November 3rd, 2020. So, I'm not even going to say that I am excited about Joe Biden, but you know what? I saw this bumper sticker and it said, anybody but Trump, and, that's where we are at, unfortunately. All right. So we're going to segue a little bit back. Thank you, Naima, again, for your wonderful comments and participation. Another fundamental issue a lot of women face, especially those from minority community, is the level of pressure and stigma they go through between their communities and the rest of the society they aim to represent. Oh my God, you hit the nail, right? The hammer on the nail there. A good example is the bridge Ilhan Omar is struggling to cross, right? Not having representation, or not having support from the Somali community, because she really did struggle there, right? As much as we are so proud of her now and the position that she has attained, she fought so hard to get there, right? And her, the initial reluctance of the Somali community to stand behind her was immense. Okay. And then there's that compounded exclusion that we're talking about, right? Not being supported by the community that you represent, and then not being really considered a part of the community that you represent, which is the greater American society. So one of the comments that I made in my review in terms of Ilhan Omar's book was that she answered the question of who is an American, right? Because that is something that basically the challenge that she faced as a politician was, as an immigrant politician, was that idea that you don't quite belong as an immigrant and that you should not aspire to enter politics and change the society that you are a part of. I mean, you should just be happy that you're here. Like, what's your problem? You know, so that's the kind of issues and the obstacles that she faced. So that's a wonderful comment, Naima, and thank you so much for, pointing that out. Back to Mr. Trump and his issues. Another thing that he wants to do this, for some reason or another, is to ban TikTok, which is not an American company, right? So my cousin, actually, who's very woke, shout out to my cousin Shukri. Her and I have been talking all weekend, and she said, if TikTok wasn't a Chinese company, he would have been totally okay, because basically whatever TikTok is being accused of, Facebook and Twitter and all the other tech giants in the US do it too. The whole monitoring and the invasion of privacy that consumers face. So the idea is, how dare this Chinese company do it? So it's not really about our privacy. It's more about, another outside company doing this. So we have been, oh, goodness gracious, how the time flies, right, when you're having fun. How time flies when you're having fun. All right. One other thing that I really wanted to touch on in terms of what is going on in the world is the power of art. The power of art is an amazing thing, right? Beyonce released a new visual album titled Black is King. And the reviews so far have been across the board. Good and maybe a little criticism, right? Has anyone watched Black is King? Anyone here watch Black is King? I watched bits and bits of it. And as usual, I'm impressed with the queen, right? She continues to outdo herself in terms of the visual aesthetics and in terms of the sound and the vocals. And, she's an artist, and she embodies everything that an artist, is, right? A change maker in some ways, right? Some of the criticism that this project faced was the idea that before enslavement, right, before the transatlantic slave trade, the idea that Black people were all part of the monarchy, kings and queens, right? And realistically speaking, right, it's not realistic that all Black people were kings and queens before enslavement. And obviously, not all people would have had access to wealth and social status, right? So the idea that, Black people before enslavement were royalty is what a lot of the comments online were about. Right. And the comments were about kind of that single story that Chimamanda Ngozi talked about, that single narrative of what Blackness is and what Blackness was, or Africanness was, before the transatlantic slave trade, right? And it discounts the real experiences that Black people have had even before the transatlantic slave trade. It is not possible, again, that all Black people were kings and queens and part of the monarchy. Another person said, because Africa and Africanness has been associated with poverty and death and despair and disaster, this was kind of like a pushback, right? So somebody else said, I don't think that Beyonce thinks all Black people were kings and queens, that this is just a pushback to the greater narrative of that Blackness is always associated with lack of. So lack of or deficiency. So this was a pushback against that. Either way, I think all criticism is okay. I think what art does, and I love art, and I told you guys before many times how much I love art, is that it creates conversation, right? It creates a conversation about who we are as a people, and before the transatlantic slave trade, and before colonialization. I have a hard time always with that word. It's like a lot of uh, colonialization. You get what I'm saying. Who are Black people and how were our societies, right? So it creates conversation about that. And yes, it is a pushback against a greater narrative, right? So in this way, Black people can decide who they are and who they were, and decide even from onwards who they will be. So the power of art for me is always like very great. It has that potential to propel and push forward change, and I think that's so important. Other than that, the visuals. I watched a couple of videos of it. The visuals were amazing, and it's Beyonce, for goodness sake. It was amazing. The vocals were superb, and it was an experience. It was a film, and I didn't get to see the entire film. So what I'll do is I'm going to watch it because I love B, right? I got Lemonade too. I bought it and I watched it, and I think it's so beautiful. This project from beginning to end basically tells a story, right? And kind of follows the Lion King movie. And basically there's a male human, Simba, and basically follows him from baby to manhood. So, and it's, I would love to see that. And just basically he guides her through his growth and development. So I think it's, I love art, and I think, I'll definitely, watch it. And I feel like you just kind of have to take, I saw another comment somewhere else that said, I will take Beyonce as she is. I will take Beyonce as a superb talent. A wonderful, they said a superb talent, a wonderful artist, a Black woman, a woman of African ancestry, as well as a Black capitalist, a woman of immense wealth and access, right? And all of those things can be true. So, and I really like that kind of balanced overlook, or like the balanced look at what this project entailed. You can take the good, you can take the bad, you can just take it as what it is, but to put a responsibility on one person to satisfy, I guess, the ideas or perspectives of everybody is, one, not realistic. And because of the position right now that Beyonce is in, I believe anything that she does is going to probably be met with some criticism, because again, she is, a Black woman of immense wealth and privilege now, right? So there's always going to be, do you really represent the common Black man and woman? There's always going to be that pushback against that. And that's valid. And those conversations need to happen. And those conversations are facilitated through the power of art. So I love art, and I always support art. I know, right? It's such a hard word for me to say. Colonization. I will be practicing this for the rest of the day. Apparently it's on Disney Plus. For some reason I got rid of my Disney Plus account a few months ago, because I had all of these things, right? I had Amazon Prime, I had Disney Plus, I had Netflix, and it's very partial to Netflix because I had it for such a long time, and I was like, oh, I can't get rid of Netflix. I love Netflix too much. So I got rid of Disney Plus because I saw myself not using it as much. But now I might have to get some trial or something and watch it. I think at some point it'll be available on different platforms, Thank you so much, Zainab. I feel like there has to be like that balance of we have to understand both perspectives, right? On some things, right? Not everything. But on some things, we've got to try to see both sides of the side, right? And of the issue, both sides of the issue, right? This is a person super rich, super privileged. Anything that they do is probably going to be met with some resistance. It's going to be met with some criticism about, you don't really know what it's like to be a regular Jane, whatever, right? And then on the other end is this person is a person with immense wealth and privilege. And because of that, they have influence, right? And because of their influence, this is what they chose to do with it. And it propels conversation and facilitates these discussions and this ability for us to, really look at who we are, who we were, who we're going to be. And I understand that completely. We can't represent every single facet of Blackness in one song, one album, one movie, one project. We are too vast and diverse. People need to chill. Thank you. I love you for that. And for many reasons, Zainab, you know that, but that's true. We can't represent every facet of Blackness. And there should be resistance to that. There isn't a single way to be Black, right? So these myopic views of Blackness is what needs to receive pushback. The single story. There is no single story, right? There shouldn't be a single story of what it means to be Black. We are multifaceted. We are, complex, multidimensional human beings. And yes, there are things that unite us, right? But again, we're individual human beings with a variety of lived experiences, and that is important. I understand completely. I understand completely. I like her. I like her. I've been like, Beyonce fan. I would say probably since Destiny's Child. No. Love Destiny's Child. So definitely since Destiny's Child. I love it. Have I watched? Have I watched? Okay, sorry about that. My phone and my computer are connected, so I really apologize. So usually before a live stream, I turn it off, and it's on my checklist of things to do, and I forgot it today. But a phone came in, and then I don't know. I hope I still have sound, right? But anyways, yes, I do. I've been a fan since way back when, and love Beyonce. So really, guys, those are the main topics really that I have today. Me, I can talk for a while. Can talk for a while. And I hope that you enjoyed the conversation today. It is every Sunday at 3 p.m. And so at 3 p.m. Eastern time zone, 10 p.m. East African time zone, and then give or take in between, the other regions that yoga. And I understand, people could be watching me from all over the world. And I really appreciate that, guys. And I just do not take that lightly at all. And so thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for participating in the conversations. Immense shout out to Zainab and Naima. You guys, really appreciate your comments. I mean, the kind of stuff that you've contributed is the stuff that dissertations are written about, So I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. So again, inshallah, we'll see each other next Sunday. Any last comments? Thank you so much, Zainab. I really appreciate you so much. You are my sister, and you've supported me, and Naima too. I love you, Naima. You support me so much, and I really appreciate you. And thank you, guys. I try, like I said, I get super nervous before we start, and then once I get going, I just kind of forget. I forget that I'm on camera, and it just feels like I'm talking to friends, and then I get comfortable. But before the show starts, I'm like, I just can't do it today. Should I just cancel? Every show, should I just cancel? I just can't do it today. And that's because of the nerves. And it's like, no matter, and I'm a performer. I perform on stage, and I've done a little bit of film, and I'm a teacher. I stand in front of people all the time, but the nerves are still there. So it's kind of like, something that you just work on all the time. You're like, it's okay. It's okay. And you just tell yourself, it's okay. Naima, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You two have a lovely evening. I really appreciate you being here, and we'll see each other, inshallah, next week. Thank you guys for joining me on the weekly show. Cooking up a lot of things for the next couple of weeks. I'm really working ahead, like in terms of weeks and months, to really get down the kind of topics that I want to discuss and the kind of people that I would like to have on the show. And I think you'd be really pleased with it, inshallah, in the future. So thank you very much for your time, for your presence. Time is obviously one of the most valuable resources that we have as human beings, and that you have chosen to spend your time with me here today just means the world to me. And I just really appreciate that and cannot thank you enough. Thank you, Naima. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I wish you guys a wonderful, wonderful day. Have a good day. Ma'asalam.